It's gripping at every turn. Because one of the most popular ultra-high performance tires ever to hit the street is ready to tear it up like never before. With a whole new level of traction, stability, and braking performance, whether wet or dry. Step up to the all-new Nitto 555 G2. Check it out at nittotire.com. It's what's next.
Blog Talk Radio.
Live from Fort Bragg's backyard, this is the show that put the 110 Nation on the map. There is only one nation, the 110 Nation, and you're listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show, covering each and every sport across the board. There is no sport too large or too little. It's time to talk the talk. Here we go. Here's the man, the founder, and your host, Mr. CJ Sports.
Welcome to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I tell you what, that guy's way too generous. The founder, the host, the man. I tell you what, way too generous. But glad to be here. 2016 is finally amongst us. Yes, I know we had a Friday show. And yes, I know it's technically 2015. But we still had to wrap up the best of the 2015, bringing back some of the greatest moments of 2015 for us. If you guys missed them, make sure you go back and check out our prior shows for the last 2 weeks. We played a lot of the great interviews that we got to experience over the 2015, from Tommy Danger from More Than Just Me to Eric Saunders, the paralyzed race car driver that's actually at the Chili Bowl, to Mason Mitchell, your ARCA Series champion 2 years ago, and team owner this year, to Grant Enfinger, the ARCA Series champion this year, to the young lady, Deanna, I can't remember her last name to save my life, the female football player. We had Robbie Allison, the grandson to Bobby Allison. We just had a lot of great people in 2015 on the 110 Nation, and we took an opportunity to wrap up 2015 by going down memory lane and playing back some of those interviews. So if you missed those, make sure you guys check them out. But glad to be here live. Glad to be here. This wonderful. It's probably cold here in North Carolina Monday night. We went from it being almost 80 degrees on Christmas to it's supposed to be in the 20s tonight. That's kind of crazy here. I'm not going to complain. Even though it kind of hurt my feelings to hear that heat run almost all day long. But I was enjoying having the windows open all day long for about 2 weeks straight in December without having to shut them and not have to run any heat or air conditioning. But it is what it is. Crazy week for us as Shorty and myself. We are relocating, and so amongst doing morning shows all week and amongst doing the night shows this week, I got to move and work and take care of kids. Got to work on packing and getting stuff sent over to the new place and unpacks and everything else. I tell you what, it's going to be a crazy week here at the household, and definitely going to do our part to make sure that we got everything going here at the 110 Nation. Got to make phone calls tomorrow to make sure the cable company and the internet company will be out here Saturday to pick up everything and to take everything over there Saturday so we don't miss a beat from the Friday night show to the Sunday night show. We got a very small window of opportunity without having any glitches. So, what is going on here? So we got to make sure that we're making sure that that is all taken care of, and hopefully there's no glitches. There's nothing worse than that. Nothing worse than missing a show. I don't want to miss any shows. If you missed this morning, we had the 110 Nation Morning Show. Make sure you guys check that out. You can follow me at DJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check out my fan page, Mr. DJ Sports. Check out the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, check out our site, www.the110nation.com. Check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. Black Mondays amongst us. We've seen a lot of coaches lose their job, but 3 of them were gone yesterday. And so I wouldn't necessarily say today was too much of Black Monday. It seemed like most of everything was taken care of on Sunday. Tom Coughlin went ahead and stepped down today. They gave him the opportunity to go ahead and retire versus getting the boots. Kind of interesting. I mean, he has a low 500 record. Been the coach on that team for a very, very long time, and 2 Super Bowl victories. So, kind of surprised. Oldest coach, 69 years old. Kind of surprised they, at least just let him finish out the last year of his contract, and then, I don't know. I was just kind of surprised by it. New schedule out. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. What just popped up on my screen? Is this really the week 1 next year's schedule already on my screen? It must be. It's the Thursday night Tampa Bay St. Louis game. Jets and Dallas kick off on a Saturday night. Is that what the Cleveland Seattle? I know that was well, we're going to talk about that. I don't know. All of a sudden, it just popped up on my screen for in an NFL section. So a good possibility. But, yeah, we'll definitely jump into that. There. Titans fire their GM. Dolphins hire Guerrero as the new general manager. Tom Brady suffered ankle sprain. Just tell you what. It's playoff time, baby. And it's great. Interesting. The matchups that we're about to see are quite intriguing. I would have to say so myself. UNC Tar Heels. UNC Tar Heels are going to be victorious tonight over Florida State, 106-90. It's the game I'm going to be watching. Not too entertaining of a game. So not going to lie, but. What, their school's closing? Wow, this is... Kids been gone for 2 weeks, and because it's going to be 20 degrees outside, they're closing schools in North Carolina. 20 degrees tonight. Who knows what it'll be in the morning? Not because it's wet outside. It ain't rained in a while. Not because it's snow outside, because it is cold. It is rather entertaining. Gotta love. Gotta love the school system. Not going to school because it's cold outside. It's cold outside. Oh. Had a great show last night. We had Jeff Swindell on the Midwest Sports Power Hour. Of course, we're going to play a little bit of that. So we'll play a little bit of that show. We're actually going to play that interview. It was a great interview last night. I want to make sure you guys did not miss that. If you guys have trouble catching us, all you got to do, you can catch us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, and on the I-90 network. Making it more and more available, as available as possible for you guys anyway. So be able to catch the 110 Nation Sports Show and all the shows really, and glad to be. 2016. We're creeping up on 5 years here for the 110 Nation. I know we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary of actually being a company, and we're probably about 2 or 3 years in the making of becoming a being the 110 Nation is, of course, we started off as DJ Sports and many other things throughout the years. But, April 15th, 2011, so we're getting closer and closer. Congratulations to J.J. Watt. He led the NFL this year, 17.5 sacks. He was the sack king. Congratulations to him. I know that Drew Brees was your all-time your passing leader. Tonight we also got number 1 versus number 2 in NCAA basketball, as you got Oklahoma versus Kansas. Should make for this actually should be an actual game worth watching tonight. So they're getting ready to tip off right now for those. Drew Brees 4,870 yards, followed by Phillip Rivers 4,792 yards, Tom Brady 4,770 yards, Carson Palmer 4,671, and then Matt Ryan 4,591. Maurice Clarett charged with DUI. What? We'll never understand. But I'm going to talk about this. As a matter of fact, what we're going to do is we got this. We had Damian Bean last night talking to Jeff Swindell and some Swindell bleeders. Now, I want to give you guys an opportunity to, because I know some of y'all don't catch the Sunday night show. And I want to make a point to pick out some of the... It is. I keep pausing this daggone thing, and it keeps trying to have it set right where it needs to be every time. And every time I turn around, there we go. Now we got it. But I want to give you guys an opportunity to catch it. And so what I'm going to do is I'll play back part of the show last time. We'll play the Jeff Swindell part. But coming back on the other side, we're going to paint the picture of we're going to paint the picture of the NFL playoffs as we get ourselves prepared this week for playoff football. And then we got some other topics that I definitely got to jump into. We got some bowl topics to talk about. We got some miscellaneous stuff we got to talk about, some more coaching firings that we need to talk about. Got a lot of things we got to jump into tonight. But this was a really good interview last night that I want to make sure you guys get an opportunity to hear. And great show. If you guys missed it, make sure you guys tune in on Sunday night, 9 p.m. We had Len Phillips on the show last night. He is the owner and promoter of the Talladega short track out there, the one that their building had caught on fire, not the grandstands, but the building that controls the control tower. There we go. And so the days before the Ice Bowl. And so they're out there rushing around, getting everything taken care of. We had him on last night. We had Zach Dom on. He was in Australia and making his way back to the United States. And, of course, we had Jeff Swindell. Great show. Action-packed last night. But take a moment, check this out, and let's get 2016 here on the 110 Nation kicked off on the right foot.
All right, let's get on to tech tips. Let's talk about tires. Why are we talking about tires? Well, in any form of motorsports, that's what's going to win you the race. If you can take care of your tires, you're going to need a driver. One, it's not going to blow the tires off on a slick racetrack. Two, you're going to have to be able to save a little something for the end, make that charged up to the front, or to hold off everybody else that's already took care of their tires. How can you do that? Swindell bleeders. Check this out. I'm sure somebody or all of you have had something happen with your bleeders, valve stuck, tires go flat, didn't bleed off at all, tires just got hotter and hotter and hotter until it just bubbled up and blew up. Well, Jeff Swindell, back in 2011, started the Swindell Group, and they decided they was going to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. What they've done is they've taken a bleeder and they've made an all-electronically controlled tire pressure management system. What this is going to allow you to do, pretty much simple. Got it in the computer.
Should we send a miracle for a child who's never put this off?
It's going to be the same. Well, that's what this does. It keeps your tire pressure equal from start, middle, to end of race. They have a video up on the webpage you can look at how to 3 to 4 minute video. I think it's probably a hot lap session or a quick heat race in the sprint car. You look at this video, and one of them is running a twin bell bleeder, and one of them isn't. And it's monitoring their tire pressure the entire time. And what happens is your twin bell bleeder stays perfectly within a half a pound of where you wanted it to go. So if you want to start 8 pounds left rear for the feature, when you get off the racetrack, your left rear tire is still going to be right at 8 pounds. Pretty impressive to watch, actually. Scott Gerson, you might remember him, he was, I think, 6 or 7 championships, but he says these are the best things that come along since breadstick plant. So if that's not a better form of advertising, I don't know what is. But hey, I'm just blowing smoke. You want to talk to the man who really knows about him? Jeff, welcome to the show, buddy. How you doing?
I'm calling after being over at the shootout all week.
I'm sorry. I only caught the last little second of that, bud. What'd you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. My voice is not gone. I've been at the shootout all week, and kind of wears your sinuses out over there.
How'd that go, man? Over 1,300 cars, couple nights of racing. I mean, how insane was that?
Man, that's a lot of cars, and that's a lot of racing. I forget how many hundreds of races they ran, but it was over 300 races, I think, they ran in 3 days, and it's just amazing. But had a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of new people. It's the first time I've ever been to a shootout, and we got to do some testing with our new Micro 600 bleeder. It ain't got all the kinks worked out of it yet, but it did okay, and I just got to make a few adjustments on it and changes here and there, and we'll get the system kind of dialed in. It those real high 16,000 RPM motors and the chain drive and all that was kind of giving my sensor a little crazy fits, but we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Is that atmosphere down there anything like the Chili Bowl, or is it?
Oh yeah, I mean well, you're talking kind of the same type deal, really. I mean, there's a lot of good racers over there, and you know, I haven't been around the 600s or very much, other than racing with them here and there. You know, when we run a car somewhere, they're running with us. But, just hadn't ever really paid a lot of attention to them, and hadn't been close to them, but. Shoot, those things are an identical car to what we got, basically, just a smaller version of it, and a lot of real smart guys and a lot of real good race car drivers in that whole field there.
Yeah, definitely the future of your sport right there with going down there and watching the shootout. And, I was pretty taken spanked them last night for a third driller. I wasn't there to see it, but I heard he really put it on them.
Yeah, that's where I finally got out of there, I don't know, about 9:30 or something last night. And kind of missed the last shows there. But the sinuses were just done.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Take us back to 2011 whenever you got the idea for the Slim Bell Group. What was the thought behind that?
Well, basically, I got a patent on my first invention, that the type tool for the magnetos, and basically you can pretty much anybody can set a magneto in the car and put it in just a matter of minutes and hit the timing mark right on the money. So when I got that patented, then that's where the Swindle Group started. And then we were racing on the road there 2011 full time with the ASCS, and I've been running around home a little bit the last few years before that, and just really didn't have a lot of help. I had a friend of mine helping me to go on the road with me that, you know, been around racing a long time, and then my 11-year-old son at the time. So we just kept fighting the bleeder situation all the time, and trying to do most all the setup and the major portion of the maintenance myself, and it was just way too much to try to keep up with. And then, you know, you work on parties again, and you can't ever get them to act just right. And then so I just kind of got tired of the situation, really. So I just started trying to figure out a way to get it done, to make it electronic and make it very plain and simple that anybody could set the leader and not have to worry about it, and with some accuracy. And so worked on it for a while, ordered a lot of pieces and parts, tested a lot of different things, and finally, the first one I put together, we started running it, and I'd sneak it out in my uniform, and then when nobody's looking, I'd shove it in the right rear and put the hubcap on so nobody could know what we had there until I got the patents all filed on it. Once I got the first one done and saw that it worked and how easy it worked, I knew this was going to be a hit.
Now, anybody that's been involved in, especially dirt racing, knows that, and especially left and right rears, when they heat up, they build that air pressure. And I think everybody that's ran has had some kind of bleeder issue at one point or another where it sits wide open and you get a flat tire and it doesn't bleed off at all and it blows the tire out. What is it about your setup that is fail-proof? I saw the video where you had, like, I don't know if it was a hot lap session or a quick heat race, but you had one camera on the twin bell bleeder, what it was reading, and you had another one that didn't run the twin bell bleeder, and the results were instantaneous just looking at it. Within a lap and a half, you could see that the tire that didn't run it was already gained maybe 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds of air pressure, where the twin bell bleeder was constantly doing its job. I mean, what makes your product so fail-safe?
Well, I mean, it's digital, so I mean, it's going to do exactly what it tells it to do. And with our bleeder, we're not relying on a diaphragm, which is a gradual progression, where when your pressure goes over 1/10 of a pound or less, then it's got electromagnetic solenoid, so it opens wide open. So it blows through the line as hard as you can blow through it. So, I mean, it'll keep it right on, I mean, really, really right on the money. The only variance is the load pressure on the tire getting in and out of the corner and down the straightaway, which, so basically what we learned with the videos is that we get about 0.3 of a pound load getting in the corner, and then when you come off the corner, the tire expands and the volume gets greater in the tire when the tire gets so much bigger going on the straightaway. So you actually go down to about 2 to 3/10 below your desired number going on the straightaway. So we've learned a lot with that video. And that video out there you were speaking of was actually a 10-lap heat race at Devil's Bowl earlier last year. And that was 2 outlaw cars. And the secondary car, without the swindle bleeder hooked up, was actually an outlaw team that run the wheel bleeders, the rigger pocket bleeders, and they had them in. And when they got back to the trailer, they went out with 9 pounds, and he run up to second and was chasing the leader, about to get by the leader, and then by the end of the race, he almost run fourth, then backed up so much. Come in, they checked the air pressure, and it was 9.3, so it was only 0.3 above his desired setting, which, in all reality, that's what we would have thought that would have been pretty close setting with his leader. Then we go back and look at the video and find out that it was almost 4.5 pounds high by the end of the race. So even with a diaphragm bleeder in, so whereas Sammy had mine in and had it put in, and he went out with 8, and it ran around 8.3 to 7.8 the whole race, basically stayed within that half-pound range. And by the time he got back in and checked his, the same 2 minutes from the checker flag, his was about 6/7 low, which is what it should be. Again, you're going to get cooling effect when you get off the gas the first one down. So, it's very, very accurate. If your right rear tire ever comes in at the pressure or above the pressure you had set, then you just really don't know how high that thing was on the racetrack.
I thought you guys have been doing a little bit of late model testing, and how's that going? You guys getting close to having something set up for the full body car?
Yeah, we've got a finished product basically. I got after Chili Bowl, I got a few design changes I want to make just for aesthetics, and the mounting system I'm going to change on it, make it just a little bit easier to pop off and on by hand, hopefully with no tools. But no, that's gone great. We came up and tested in Pennsylvania a few months ago, Jeff Rye, and ran 3 different racetracks up there, and one of them was the Outlaw Show. He started at the back of that and came to the front by the end of it. That's pretty good with Outlaw guys for a local guy. Jeff and them were great to work with and learned a lot. We got camera footage of all of it. We got a camera now that we put in the hubcap that'll actually it faces the bleeder, so you can actually watch your pressure during the whole race. I mean, we can, anybody can put one of these in now, and they can tell exactly what their own tires are doing.
These guys don't sound like they're very far from reinventing the wheel, man.
Well, it's taken off. It's done real well. I'm very blessed to have stumbled upon it. I guess you keep trying and you finally come up with something. There's a lot of things on sprint cars that I actually designed and developed that are still on every one of them out there right now. Some 20, 30 years ago, but nobody really thinks about it or really even knows about most of it. But this is one I couldn't pass up and let go and hand over to the manufacturers. I knew this was going to be a pretty good little deal. So just very blessed that we got this going. It's going real well. We did go down to Charlotte and ran the late model bleeders on Schatz' car all weekend at the World Finals, and he was tickled to death with it. Went really, really well. And he did a hell of a good job down there being a dirt old sprint car guy. That's such a good late model guy.
Yeah, I've got to see him wheel late model a few times, and I think that guy can drive anything. But, like you were saying, people have had a lot of success with the bleeders. I mean, you guys go down to Volusia, you sweep the Volusia, you fill the podium at the All-Star races. I mean, what Darren Pittman was able to accomplish on running Sunbelt bleeders, I mean, proof is in the pudding, the products work. And where can people go and get this if, they want to try your products?
You can go to jeffswindell.com or send me an email at info@jeffswindell.com or message me on Facebook, Jeff Swindell, or go to Swindell Bleeders Facebook page. That's where you can find all the different videos with the late models and the sprint cars, and then there's the sprint car comparison we were talking about. There's also a sprint car video up where they left and a right there in a full feature with another Outlaw car, and it shows the full effects of cool down and how much pressure you can lose through that. Red flags, yellows, and all that, and how it comes back. So we got all our instructions and everything up on the Swindell Bleeders page. So I'm easy to find. We're just trying to get all the new parts and pieces done and get the micro stuff done and get the midget stuff done this week for the Chili Bowl next week.
And you guys pretty much full board just on the bleeder? You guys working on anything else you got hidden up your sleeve?
I got a board full of stuff actually. I got let me see. I got 15 pretty good projects on the board right now outside of the bleeders. So we decided to.
You had talked about implementing things, as far back as 20, 25 years ago in sprint cars that are still, in use to this day. I mean, elaborate on that a little bit. What have you contributed to this sport as far as then to now?
Well, probably the most prominent thing that's on every car out there is the radiator guard. Before that, we all used to run shaker screens, and to keep the mud out of the radiator, and they would fill up with mud all the time, and then you'd run hot. Sammy started working on something to combat that. I mean, I guess that started the things clicking. So I started working on it. He had a lower guard to come up under the frame rails in front of the axle, and it worked good, but it got knocked off all the time. They had a lot of problems with knocking off tires, curbs, and cushions and everything. So they got away from that. And then I was driving for Gil Suter out in Phoenix, running Manzanita weekly, and so I got some time to do some testing during the week and some work, and I come up with the radiator guard. It mine actually came over the front of the axle. It had a lip on it that came up and over the axle. It was really the only difference from what they are right now. We got it to working. We did some comparison, and I mean, even without any mud in them, we dropped the temperature in the car 20 degrees with no mud at all in the old shaker screen. So the flow was unbelievable. And we showed up at an outlaw show in Denver, I think, where we hooked up with the Outlaws, and everybody come over looking at that thing. Carl Kinzer come over and looked at it. Next thing you know, it's all the chassis manufacturers are putting it in every car, and so that's where that thing originated. The interior wing slider, we did that up in Pennsylvania on the Weicker car when we built that thing that winter. Carl was the original guy to put a slider on, put an adjustable hydraulics on the wing, and then I went in and we put the interior stuff in, the sliders, got rid of the rails, everything hanging out from the beat to work, which you don't see any rails under the wings no more. So we started that with the Weicker car. That car was very well documented by Open Wheel. We had like a 6-page spread on that car. There was a lot of things on that car. It had the Zeus-in gauge panel. We had the radiator actually mounted on the car, and we could change the motor in that thing 8 minutes easy, no problem, and have it crank back up. I don't know. There's
quite a bit of innovation in sprint car history.
Well, you do it to make your stuff better is what you do, and that's all I've ever done before. And never really looked into the thought of I was just a racer. I never really thought about business wise. And so the older I get, I guess the more you think about things like that. The universal seat mounts and the shoulder mount system I came up with back in 2011, and J&J and Maxim and most of the chassis builders are offering that now, and a lot of the guys are going to that. You see it, at every racetrack just a lot of people. So it's that's not.
With you being such a big advocate on car setup and ways to improve in the sport in general, let me ask you this, and this is a question that I've been asking for a few years, but you see more and more with the milling down of these cars. Everybody's just milling anything they can to save literally ounces of weight to try to be just a little bit better than the next guy. Is there a point where you got to stop that, or do you think it's going to get to the point where it's just out of control?
Well, I don't think it's as much of a problem as it used to be, because once they implemented the weight rule, that took a lot of that issue out, and I think that's one of the best things that they've ever done in the last 20 years as far as rules, because that okayed everybody to put that big heavy containment seat in the car.
Right.
Because now we were underweight. I'm not so sure they couldn't add a little bit more to it and make it a little more fair for the big old heavy boys like Steve Kinzer and Johnny Herrera. I seen a picture of both of them the other day put together. They're part of the gray man group that I like to call us all. But the big boys. Nobody in the stands knows if that thing's 1,300 pounds or 1,700 pounds. So who or why are they going to carry? It doesn't really matter. So it's all about safety and the rules. Putting in the weight rules and stuff is one of the greatest things to happen. That's probably saved a lot of people from getting hurt just by being able to add the full containment seats in the cars and not have to worry about that extra weight. The guys don't have to work too hard now to get weight. Anything rotating, you're going to try to get down. Anything way out, like the outer edges of the wheels and stuff like that. The big rotating weights you're going to want to try to get rid of. But anything way up on the car, you want to try to get rid of. But other than that, it's not that critical. A guy can go buy a nice stock roller somewhere and he can compete anywhere. That's the thing about it nowadays. You can buy anything off the shelf that'll actually do the job if you got somebody smart enough and you probably buy a good motor to go with it.
Hey, let's talk 2016. What's this year going to hold in store for you as far as racing goes?
I got off that last year. We run the SCS last several years and just decided we don't want to do that deal anymore. And the bleeder sales and business got really big last year, and so we got real busy with that. I only ran 2 races after Knoxville last year, so that was a change after running full time basically the last 5 years. we're gonna build leaders, and then my car owners are from around here locally anyway, and they don't hardly get to travel to see race cars, so probably try to run around here a little more often, and then just maybe pick and choose a few of the bigger races to go hit. And, when we got time, we'll go race, and when we don't, we'll work.
Yeah, I hear that. And Jeff, I want to thank you very much for being on the Horsepower Hour here, and we're going to definitely get.
And those that are listening to the show tonight, I know that if you're a race fan, you can appreciate what they were talking about, and just to hear the innovative mind that Jeff Swindell is in, and how he's helping to transform this sport and make this sport better and more efficient, made it where it was a must. We had to play that part of the interview back last night. But like I said, if you're not catching the Sunday night show, you're missing one hell of a show. It is quickly becoming the highest rated show on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network, and for good reasons. And he's got a stud-filled show planned once again next week. So you have to make sure you tune in. Like I said, Midwest Horsepower Hour, 9 o'clock Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you guys check that out. As I promise you will not be you will not be disappointed at all. Crazy, crazy, crazy day. Let's talk a little bit about the playoff pictures that we now that the season is done and the picture has been painted. We now have 12 teams remaining. We now have supposedly the best of the best left. Still a couple things kind of debatable whether or not they should possibly be in or whether or not they should not have been included. I mean, I think that a lot of people would agree that maybe the Jets should have been in, maybe not so much the Redskins, but they won their division, and obviously two different conferences. That's comparing apples and oranges, but according to the rules per se, we got the best 12 teams out of the 32 to now duke it out to find out who's going to be crowned the Super Bowl 50 champions. Out in the NFC, of course, we had the Carolina Panthers finish in the number one seed. And what was really good about, first of all, the fact that Week 17 was the fact that we still had, I want to say it was 10, either 10 or 11 games that still had playoff implications. Either it was the Jets or the Steelers getting in, it was either the Patriots, the Bengals, or the Broncos, and who's going to be seeded 1, 2, 3, and how they were going to be seeded. If it was out in the NFC, whether the Panthers or the Cardinals were going to be first seed, second seed. If it was the Packers or the Vikings, who was going to win the conference, the NFC North, or who was going to have the wild card. If it was, who was the other one? There was one other, Houston and Indianapolis, that was still up for grabs. Chiefs and Broncos on who was going to win the conference and who was going to win, who was going to be the wild card. It was either 10 or 11. I want to say 10, but possibly 11 games will still have some kind of playoff implication. And so that, them redoing the schedule the way they did one was awesome anyway. But because how the schedule played out this year made Week 17 worthwhile to watch. And that was great because it's not every day we get that. And it's not every year Week 17 rolls around and we still have over half the games left have some kind of playoff implication. And nothing is set in stone. I think, honestly, the only thing that was set in stone was the Washington Redskins and possibly even the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think either one of those two teams, out of the 12 teams, could move in any direction. So, 10 games. And so to have that and to see the season wrap up, I don't think the NFL could ask for anything more. NFC-wise, Panthers obviously take the number one spot, and I talked about this a little bit this morning on the One Thing Nation morning show, and it's really good and cool to be able to sit back and look at this picture. The fact that we got the Panthers 1 and the Cardinals 2. Now, for those that have not listened to the show before or have missed the segment when I talked about it, I picked going into the season it to be the Patriots and the Cardinals. And I still strongly believe that those are the two best teams. I still believe that the Patriots, even on a 2-game lose streak, even though they lost to the Jets 2 weeks ago in overtime, and even though they lost last week to Miami, I still think that they're the best team in the AFC. I don't care if Peyton Manning comes back and is a starting quarterback or if he's coming off the bench, which I would be shocked, even though Kubiak trying to play it off like we don't know who we plan on starting. It's whatever. Peyton Manning's available. We all know. I disagree with what I listened to earlier, saying that Peyton Manning is the only one that can lead him to the Super Bowl. How can he say that? Brock Osweiler has played really good football and has beat some really good teams. And honestly, with the arm strength in question with Peyton Manning and the health and the age, the only thing that Peyton Manning really has on Osweiler is to be able to dissect the defense and call the correct audible and help run an efficient offense. But I can't sit there and say Brock Osweiler couldn't lead the Denver Broncos to a Super Bowl. I don't think either quarterback's going to lead to the Super Bowl. I think that the Patriots have it. But, in all honesty, and this is no disrespect to Peyton Manning, at this point in his career, I think one is just as capable as the other to lead to a Super Bowl if that was even an option. But going into the season, I had New England and Arizona, even though Arizona was manhandled 36-6 by the Seattle Seahawks. I still have those two teams as my top teams. I mean, yes, both of them still had something to play for, and yes, New England kind of screwed themselves, had the number one seed, and could have had home field advantage all throughout, and now they have to go through Denver to get to the Super Bowl. Arizona didn't really have as much to play for. I'm sure they kept up to speed on the Carolina game, and it took a Carolina loss and an Arizona win in order for them to change or move anything, and I'm sure that played a lot into how they performed and who played and how long everybody. But those were my two teams going to the season. Those are still my two teams. And I have talked about this many times. I've even had this discussion with many people, even at my other job, especially because there's a lot of Carolina Panther fans that come into my shop. Carolina is not the best team in the NFC, regardless what the record says. And it was quickly pointed out when the new schedule came out that Carolina, who had the easiest schedule in 2015, might not have quite the easy path that they had this year. And, no matter how you twist it, and no matter if you're a Carolina Panther fan or not, you look at their schedule, nobody had an easier schedule. When you only play one team above 500 all season long, it don't get much easier than that. Green Bay was your only team when you played them. It was above 500. But looking at the playoff picture, there was two teams that I said was better than Carolina. I said Arizona was your number one team in the NFC, and I said the Seattle Seahawks were the number two team in the NFC. That put Carolina your third. And that number 2 team in the NFC is going to be that team that's going to keep Carolina from even making it to the NFC Championship game against their Cardinals. Week 1 in the wild card round, we got Vikings traveling to Seattle. Now, if anybody out there outside of the delusional Minnesota fans, I think those that are realistic Minnesota fans know that they're not going to beat the Seattle Seahawks. But those delusional fans might be the only people out there that might pick the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Seattle Seahawks. The other game is Green Bay traveling to the Redskins. So without any doubt in anybody's mind, we're going to have a Seattle win and a Green Bay win. Washington, it took them, I think one point in time, they were, 5-7. They won 4 games straight or whatever it was to put themselves at 9-7. Minnesota, somehow they've hung around, but there's no way Teddy Bridgewater is going to have any success against the Seattle defense. It just ain't going to happen. Unless Adrian Peterson runs for about 300 yards, Vikings really have no shot at all. After the first round in the NFC, that's when things get interesting. Because that's now going to lead us to a Carolina-Seattle matchup. That I already said if they played right now, Seattle would win. So we already know where that's going to happen there. And then an Arizona-Green Bay matchup. Interesting. I'm still going to go with Arizona at home over Green Bay, which is going to have us the Battle of the Birds in Arizona, which now gives us a repeat of Week 17, which I'm going to go with Arizona to not lose this time, 36-6, like they did last week. But that's how the NFC is looking, and that's how I visualize the NFC playing out. A Seattle win over Minnesota, a Green Bay win over Washington, a Seattle win over the Panthers, an Arizona win over Green Bay, and then an Arizona win over Seattle at home. In the AFC, next Saturday night at 8:30, we have a must-watch game. We got 2 wild card games. One is a must-watch. The other one, whatever. Bengals and Steelers, that is a must, without a doubt. The rivalry, the chipperness, the almost getting in a fight the last time, everything about this matchup makes it a must-watch game. I am definitely going to be glued Saturday night to that TV to watch the Bengals take on the Steelers. Of course, I'm going to pick the Steelers to win. It don't matter who they got back there. If they got A.J. McCarron, if they got Andy Dalton. The Steelers are the better of the 2 teams. Steelers had the injury to Big Ben and the setbacks. They had the Michael Vick and the injury. It's just a lot of things that hit them at the beginning of the season to put them behind. Once the Steelers got to full force, they've been a very good team. The other matchup, the Houston Texans and the Chiefs, I just don't see this being a worthwhile game to watch. I just don't think Houston is up to the task. I think that they won a few games against their division to wrap up the season that got them into the playoffs and helped them to have a 9-7 record. But I don't Brian Hoyer can lead this Houston Texans team to a victory over Kansas City or even really anywhere in the playoffs. So now this is where things start to get interesting in the AFC. Because now you have a Denver Bronco team going against a Pittsburgh Steelers team, and now you have a Patriot team going against the Chiefs team. Now, history shows that anything is possible. We watched Tim Tebow throw away 80-yard touchdown to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs already. Do I think that we're going to see the same miracle out of a Denver Bronco team now? No. I don't care who's back there at the quarterback. I like what I see out of the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. This was a team that I talked about for 2 or 3 weeks, that if they got in, they would be scary. And now that they're in, I got to have them as being scary. The other matchup's interesting to me. The Kansas City Chiefs 10-game win streak was 1-5. Start off the season was 0-5 or 1-5 with Jamal Charles, 10-0 without Jamal Charles. Against the Patriots team in New England. I must say that at that point, which would be an 11-game win streak, I think will come to an end. I honestly believe our AFC matchup, which will be a fun one to watch, will be the Steelers and the Patriots. I don't think we could have asked for 2 better conference championship games. Steelers and Patriots, Seattle and Arizona. And then, of course, ultimately it'll come down to the 2 teams that I predicted to be in the Super Bowl, Arizona and New England. Now, at this point, I don't know who I feel would win. I have preached all year long. I think I've preached for many years at this point. You can't bet against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. You can't. But the way things sit right now, yes, I would bet against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick with that Arizona team. But we got about 2 games each. Before we get there, we know with the injury bugs and everything else, a lot of things could take their toll. If I pick it right now, yes, it would be Arizona winning themselves a Super Bowl. That's how I envision the playoffs playing on both sides of the field, or both sides of the conferences, and how I see it playing out. Now, we'll keep an eye on how the injuries play out and how everything may or may not change. But that's where we sit right now in the NFL playoffs. Playoffs. Black Monday, like I said, a lot of things. Giants head coach Tom Coughlin, after 2 Super Bowl wins and 12 seasons at the helm of the New York Giants, Coughlin's tenure has finally come to a close at the age of 69. The Giants finished 6-10 for a second straight season and missed the playoffs for 6 times. Sixth time in 7 years. Blah, 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 blah. And he finally burned through a seat that's been hot for several years despite 2 title rings. Titans general manager Rustin Webster, interim head coach Mike Mularkey remains a long shot candidate for the long-time gig, but even if he gets it, Ken Wisenhunt's replacement will have a new boss. Niners head coach Tim Tomsula, after a year after showing Jim Harbaugh the exit, Niners owner Jed York and GM Trent Falk kept a revolving door moving, handing coach Jim Tomsula his walking papers after a 5-11 record. The other thing I have with this is they talk about they didn't see a vast improvement. So I listened to the interview earlier today with the front office of the 49ers, saying that, the reason that they let him go is because they didn't see an improvement from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And that's the only part that I care less who's coaching the 49ers. It is what it is. I just don't necessarily agree with not seeing an improvement. I mean, just simply taking Colin Kaepernick out of the quarterback position, that was an improvement there. I mean, you had person waiting a spot on your roster, and Blaine Gabbert obviously is not a Pro Bowl quarterback, not a good quarterback, maybe at best an average quarterback, but that's much better than what you had. I mean, when this whole thing happened, when the 49ers thought in their mind that it was a good idea to bench Alex Smith, or maybe not bench, but not let him back in after his injury, for Colin Kaepernick, I knew that was a bad idea. And Alex Smith's not a great quarterback. He's a good game manager, and he can be accurate as long as you're throwing 5 to 10 yards. I mean, you don't expect a lot of long balls out of Alex Smith. I mean, he was throwing interceptions left and right in Week 17. You got to manage that. But traditionally, Alex Smith is going to get you about 70%. He's not going to turn the ball over much as long as you game plan around that. Colin Kaepernick might have had a deeper arm, but wasn't necessarily always accurate. He might be a better runner, but if you want a runner, then get a running back. And he might be a little bit stronger. And so less chance for injury. But by no stretch of the imagination does that mean he was a better quarterback. And yes, he had games that he had a glimpse of good play, but it was never a consistent thing. To give you an update on number 1, Kansas versus number 2, Oklahoma. Oklahoma was down by, I want to say, as much as almost 15 points, I think, at one point in the first half. There at the halftime now, Oklahoma came back. They're up 4 points, 44-40. Just coming across as well, Colts and Chuck Picano have agreed to an extension. His contract was good through next year, but they have given him a contract extension. I'm surprised on that. I figured that at best they would at least let the next year play out, then make a decision. But not only is Chuck Picano going to see the last year of his contract, he gave an extension. But that doesn't mean that he's a better quarterback. Like I said, he's shown glimpses of that he could be a good quarterback, but it was never something that was consistent. It was never something that you knew that it was not something that was going to be long term. And I think that's the only part that I did not agree with when I was listening to the interview, because they were a little bit better than they were at the beginning of the season. I mean, they were just a straight joke. You had to bench Colin Kaepernick. Vernon Davis said, you know what, deuces, I'm done with this garbage, and wanted out. I mean, a little bit better. Maybe not much, but Browns head coach Mike Pettine, while in concussed Johnny Manziel was allegedly partying the weekend away in Las Vegas, Cleveland owner Jim Haslam brought down the axe on the coach who benched Johnny Manziel on countless occasions, and the general manager who drafted him. Was it the fifth head coach since 2008? It's a ridiculous amount of head coaches. The last 5 head coaches to be fired in the AFC North since 2008, or the last 5 head coaches in the NFC nor to be fired have come from the Cleveland Browns. And, of course, we already knew that Chip Kelly was out the door. That was before even Week 17. They said, you know what, we're not even playing those games. We're just going to go ahead and take care of that now. Now, Chip Kelly's name has been linked to two teams, the Cleveland Browns and more so the San Francisco 49ers. I'm curious to know, I know money talks, but what person voluntarily wants to go coach the Cleveland Browns? And I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. Die hard, through and through. Don't get me wrong. But I just can't I can't manage. I can't imagine. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Didn't want to say manage in this, but imagine. There you go. I can't imagine anybody just saying, you know what? I want to go coach the Cleveland Browns. You don't have a quarterback. I mean, you got Josh McCown, who has never been a starting quarterback on any legit team ever. You got Austin Davis, that should never be more than a second-string quarterback. That is at most, at best, what Austin Davis is. And then you got Johnny Manziel. A mediocre running core. You get Josh Gordon back if he can stay off the weed. We saw some glimpses of Terrell Pryor and what he could possibly do. And you got Benjamin. You could have a really good receiving core. I mean, if you find a quarterback willing to go play for you, you got decent receivers. You get an offensive line to protect your quarterback so he ain't running around. And then a defense that once was really good, even as horrible as this team was, you could count on the defense. I mean, even though the Browns were still losing games, they were losing 9-6 or 12-9 or 10-7. I mean, the defense was shut down. The offense just wasn't producing. Now the defense is not so good. You got rid of a lot of those pieces. A lot of pieces they drafted. I mean, it makes me sick in my stomach to watch Jarrell Shear do what he does for the New England Patriots. No, we drafted him. No, we had him. And we decided, you know what? We don't want him no more. There's a few teams out there that, yeah, I can see, outside of the money side of it. And it's one of those things that I honestly believe you go to Cleveland, because how many coaches have left Cleveland and went on to have other coaching jobs or even be successful at other coaching jobs? And there ain't been too many. Kind of one of those places you go there to end your career. So the only incentive to go and coach in the Cleveland Browns is for the money. You get that contract, you better save your money, because odds are you're not going to get another head coaching opportunity. I mean, Philadelphia, you got some talent to work with there. I mean, honestly, I think that if Philadelphia wanted to jump the gun, I mean, it was, 10-6 last year? So they had a bad year this year. Honestly, I think there was only a piece or two away from taking that division again. I mean, there was just a lot of new pieces that was added to that team. It's going to take a minute to get the chemistry to work. The Niners, that team is more of a historic thing. There's not a lot of promise there, and there's not a lot of promise in that conference. I mean, no matter who steps into the shoes, to be the 49ers coach, you got to contend with an Arizona team that is in their prime right now and is going to be in their prime for a few more years. You got the Seattle Seahawks, who've been the best of the West for a while now. And St. Louis, if they keep adding pieces like they did with Todd Gurley, I mean, that West is getting to be a very strong conference or division there. I don't feel that is necessarily a coaching place to go to end your career, but it's going to take time. It's going to take a couple of years before the 49ers are legitimate contenders, especially since you kind of depleted your receiving core and you really don't have a legitimate quarterback to lead you. I mean, you're sadly mistaken if you think Blaine Gabbert is going to lead you to the promised land. It's not happening. There's opportunities out there for some of these teams. Giants, I mean, that, you know, honestly, some of the head coaching jobs out there, if the interim head coach Mike Mularkey stays, that's good. I don't know who they're going to get to fill that Tennessee Titans roster. I mean, it's not a historic team. It's not a team with any kind of promise. I mean, Marcus Mariota is your quarterback. I mean, you have a quarterback that hasn't done nothing. Cleveland won Rookie of the Year. You let Jameson Winston beat you. There's a few spots. As a matter of fact, almost all of them outside of outside of the Browns that, you know, there's some kind of incentive. I mean, the Giants, they're ready to go. I mean, someone steps in and they're already built. You got receivers, you got a quarterback, you got a run game. I just couldn't imagine knowing that there is a real good possibility that if I go to coach the Cleveland Browns, my career is done. That they rotate quarterback or coaches quicker than anybody else in the NFL. I just couldn't visualize anybody wanting to voluntarily. Like it has to be, to me, it would have to be a last resort. That, okay, this is the end of my career. This is my last stop on the way out of the NFL. I couldn't imagine. And I'm dying to know. And I've had people ask me, who's going to be your next coach? I mean, that was the first thing this morning, text messages coming in. And all I could do is shake my head and say, you know what? I don't know which person out there is ready to commit career suicide. I don't know who is ready to say, you know what, I'm done. I couldn't. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that the Cleveland Browns with Dwayne Bowe earned $1.8 million per catch this season. The amount of money they paid that man versus the actual usage and times he caught a ball, $1.8 million per catch. All the talented players out there in the NFL, and we overpay some scrub. And you wonder why no one wants to coach this team. Interesting fact how wild the 2015 NFL season was. 842 passing touchdowns, most in NFL history. I mean, a lot of it got to do with the way this league is gone. I mean, when you have an NFL league that you really can't be a man, that it's pretty much gone to two-hand touch football, and heaven forbid you touch a quarterback. I mean, hell, heaven forbid the wind from your body going by the quarterback brushes and affects anything, and they'll call personal foul. Just like heaven forbid you touch a receiver. I mean, guys, you pretty much got to let them catch it and take a few steps before you can catch a penalty. 842 touchdown passes, most in NFL history. With that being said, 7 1,000-yard rushers, fewest in the NFL since 1991. It's because the league is so pass happy. I mean, you could pretty much walk out there like the last Boy Scout and kill a running back on the field, and you're not going to get charged, you're not going to get a penalty, you're not going to get nothing. But like I said, heaven forbid, heaven forbid you yell too loud when you run by a quarterback, you're going to catch a personal foul. I mean, that's how ridiculous the NFL's gotten with this. That's how we got quarterbacks playing into the 40s. We went from a league that we watched Dan Marino's record last for 20 years. Now all of a sudden you're having multiple quarterbacks throw 5,000-plus yards a season. I mean, granted, this year Drew Brees was only 48.70, and I say only 48.70. I'm shocked we didn't have a 5,000-yard passer. And I thought this other one was interesting. 71 missed extra points, most in NFL history. I wanted to back it up some more. They still hit like 94%. Yes, it's down from like 99%. They're still hitting like 94%. I want it to be where there is a lot more consideration on the two-point conversion. Back it up another 10 yards. Let's make it a 40 to 45, somewhere in that ballpark. Let's make them earn that point. Let's have teams really start to dictate and rethink. Is an automatic one-point conversion, or let's go back to the days of Pee Wee football and grinding it out every play. We never once kicked it. All the years I played football, we never once kicked an extra point. Now, granted, I didn't play up until middle school, but we had to earn every last point we got. We weren't given any points. Could you imagine on a week-to-week basis watching a crap ton of two-point conversions? I mean, granted, we're seeing a lot more now than we have ever had because they backed it up as it was. Well, let's back it up another 10 yards. Let's see. Well, let's take that percentage down to about 80%. With games online, and see how many more teams are willing to go for two-point conversions. Mike Shanahan is to interview for the Dolphins coaching job. He's actually going back for his second interview. The first one was back on December 22nd. Well, week 17 was interesting, though. I thought it was funny that the Jets, all they had to do was beat the Buffalo Bills. Granted, a Rex Ryan led coach Buffalo Bills. That was funny that Rex Ryan found a way to screw the Jets once again. Patriots losing to the Miami Dolphins. That was interesting. For sure thought that New England was going to lock up home field advantage throughout. Watch Brock Osweiler get benched for Peyton Manning. Mile High Stadium erupt. Granted, Peyton Manning only went 5 for 9, but all of a sudden, this is what kills me. That man went 5 for 9. Threw like 70 yards. That place erupts. The team plays different. They play with energy, which I'm not understanding. With you needing to win this game to win the comp or win your division versus Kansas City, you should have been playing with some kind of purpose anyway. So switching quarterbacks should have never influenced anything when it came to this game at all. But you can tell that it was like all of a sudden now the players were playing with some kind of purpose, had a little bit more attitude in their step. And here we are the next day and that night, and for the next 13 days until the Denver Broncos play their next game, we're going to be talking about them. And all the reasons why Peyton Manning should be playing versus Brock Osweiler. And how him coming into the game changed the momentum. The same thing that happened when Tim Tebow did, when he was playing. He comes in the game, the momentum changed. When he was the starting quarterback, the players played with a purpose. If that had been Tim Tebow that played as long as he did in the game and only went 5 for 9, and why did the two basketball players just flop on the ground? Good God. That was just horrible. Not just horrible, but two. Just flopped on top of each other. Same team. But if Tim Tebow would have been that quarterback to play as long as Peyton Manning did yesterday afternoon, and would have went 5 for 9 like Peyton Manning did, we would be talking about the fact that Tim Tebow only went 5 for 9, and that the Tebow mania is ridiculous, and everything else. But because it's Peyton Manning, now all of a sudden it's acceptable to be all excited about what Peyton Manning did. I don't quite get it. I'm trying to pull up exactly. I want to say it was right at halftime. We got right into the third quarter. I think that interception in the third was what changed everything. Third quarter. 7 minutes. So he played a quarter and a half. Oh, no, we're still set. We're not even halftime yet. Third quarter. Here we go. Quarter and a half. And he went 5 for 9 with 69 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, not that Brock Osweiler was having a bad game. 14 of 22, 232 yards. Just he had 2 interceptions. But I guarantee if this would have been Tim Tebow that went 5 for 9, 69 yards, and a quarter and a half, even though you would have led him to a win, such as Peyton Manning did, we would have a totally different reaction to this. And I'm not trying to compare Tim Tebow to Peyton Manning by any stretch of the imagination. I am more trying to compare the reaction of the fans, not even the fans. The fans were crazy whenever Tim Tebow would get into the game or whenever he would lead to come back at the end of the game. But the critics, the media, those that are putting their 2 cents in on this, I just find it, I don't know, it just kills me to know that if this would have been Tim Tebow doing it, he's not that good of a quarterback. Tebow mania is ridiculous. That he should not be getting the everything that they would say. But because of Peyton Manning, he goes 5 for 9, 69 yards and a quarter and a half. There's no doubt that Gary Kubiak should be starting him. I mean, it's Peyton Manning. And I'm sitting there, how because this man's played in I mean, I'm scratching my head. I understand that Peyton Manning can dissect a defense like no other quarterback has ever in the history of the sport. I understand that his IQ on the game at the position that he plays is ridiculous. I understand that. I'm more speaking to the specifics here, the fact that he went 5 for 9 and 69 yards, and people are ready to crown him the best quarterback in the league today because he came back and helped lead the Broncos to victory in a game that really didn't matter other than it dictated him having home field advantage and winning the division. I mean, yes, it mattered, but they were still in the playoffs. I mean, Tim Tebow had to take this team that was horrible and had to win enough games to get into the playoffs and win a playoff game. And that kind of brings me to another point. I mean, you got all these critics that when any other year they're talking about Peyton Manning, they're quick to throw out there how horrible Peyton Manning is in the playoffs, losing Super Bowls and losing playoff games, and love to throw out his lack of being able to win in the playoffs. But after watching him last night, they're quick to say that he should be the starter, that this should be a no-brainer. Well, hold on. One, you all talk about how the fact that he does not have the deep arm anymore, that he just does not have the velocity on his passes, that he can't take any hits, that he's not mobile, that he's still having trouble to adopt to this offense. Never mind the fact on top of that he is not a very successful quarterback in the playoffs. And a lot of these things you point out on a year-to-year basis just went out the window because he came in and played for a quarter and a half. Didn't have to put his body through a whole game. Then he would throw the ball double-digit amount of times. Just threw the ball 9 times. So really got no really wear or tear. I mean, come on, let's do the math here, people. This is what I think should happen. Honestly, this is what I think should happen. I think, honestly, you should start Brock Osweiler. That is my opinion when it comes to, and I know that I am in a very, very empty boat in this whole thing. I understand that majority is in that big cruise ship over there, slam-packed to people, that it's so slam-packed that the people are falling off like it's the Titanic. I understand that I'm in this little itty-bitty rowboat and possibly by myself. But listen to me for a second. Peyton Manning has not got a very successful rate in the playoffs. Peyton Manning is old. Peyton Manning is coming off injuries. Peyton Manning does not have the velocity. Why not start the quarterback that has done good this year, been successful? I mean, as much as people want to say this and that about Brock Osweiler, they're still 12-4. They're the number one seed. Peyton Manning hadn't played in weeks. Now, with you starting Brock Osweiler, you already know that Peyton Manning can handle playing half a game or so, if need be. If things don't turn out the way that you want to turn out, at some point, you know that Brock Osweiler is fine and has the respect for Peyton Manning that he will come out of the game. You also already know that Peyton Manning knows his role, and if you want him to sit on the bench, he'll sit on the bench. Does he want to? Probably not. But does he know Father Time's catching up with him? Well, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is you see what happened yesterday on the fact that if Osweiler happens to have an off game, Peyton Manning can come in, step up. The troops are going to rally behind him if they need to be. And you could count on Peyton Manning doing what you – and I'm not saying wait till you get to a point that it's out of control. You got the Steelers coming up. I mean, you get to a point that Osweiler's had a couple of interceptions or, is down by 10 points or so, then, yeah, it's that time to pull him. You got to work on the future. You gave the Peyton Manning project ample time. You done was a one and done. You was already a Super Bowl and done. You was also a done. Okay, you made to one Super Bowl in the last 3 years, and yet have accomplished anything. What makes you think this year, with all the injuries, and you could tell the definite fall off in velocity and production, it's going to be any better? That was my biggest concern when we talked about the Denver Broncos, either A, going with Peyton Manning versus keeping Tim Tebow, or B, the fact that you didn't hold on to Tim Tebow is because you gave up everything for now versus worried about the future. Now you have that opportunity once again to have some kind of focus on the future. And as great as a championship would be right now, the likelihood of it is zip. I would rather see Denver either win it all or put their best effort forward with Brock Osweiler so you have something to build off with than falling flat on your face with Peyton Manning once again, and now you hurt the confidence of your young quarterback. Now you set your future back just a little bit more because now he doesn't get that experience in the playoffs. I mean, at some point you got to cut it off. You got to take the baby from the nipple. You can't keep feeding Peyton Manning all the opportunity and counting on now that, especially this is, I'm not going to say this is his last season, but I would be willing to bet Peyton Manning's got maybe one more season in him. And honestly, I think if he plays another season, you're going to see about the same as you've seen out of him this year. Maybe minus the injury, but even when he was healthy to begin the season, I mean, they were questioning then. Like I said, I know that winning the Super Bowl, winning the Vince Lombardi Trophy is everybody's priority. That's what they're playing. But we also know with Peyton Manning's track record in the playoffs, and his track record this season, and the injuries this season, and Father Time this season, that it would take a miracle for this Bronco team to find themselves in the Super Bowl, let alone win the Super Bowl. You got a very talented team and an opportunity to take the next step forward and get Brock Osweiler some more experience, possibly go to the Super Bowl, possibly win the Super Bowl with them. But let's focus on the next 2 or 3 years versus the next 2 or 3 weeks. Let's focus on, you got players that are not going to be around forever. Why not take an advantage of the opportunity that you are given versus, once again, putting your future to the back burner on the hopes that Peyton Manning is going to lead you to a championship? Not quite sure. Why? But I know that Peyton Manning has earned his respect. And I understand that Peyton Manning is probably going to be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos when they play their playoff game in 13 weeks. And I know that I am on a very, very lonely boat by saying I would start Brock Osweiler off. But it's also got to be reassuring to Osweiler to know, you know what, if I have a bad game, if I fold on this big stage of the playoffs, I know that I have one of the best quarterbacks to have ever played this game in my back coming to this game and possibly turn it around. And that's what I would bank on. That takes some of the pressure off Brock Osweiler. Knowing that he is not competing for the starting role, knowing that if he has an off day, that there's someone there to help him. Now you've got two quarterbacks that got to worry about, and all you're doing is causing quarterback controversy. And that's the last thing you want in the playoffs, is a quarterback controversy. A veteran quarterback that knows that I'm probably really not the best man for this job. And I know if I have a performance like I had in the first 6 weeks that I'm going to be benched. Then you have Brock Osweiler knowing that I might still need to be doing some learning. And I know if I make some mistakes, I'm going to be benched. I mean, how's that a win-win situation for anybody that's involved? I don't know. Like I said, me personally, I would start Brock Osweiler and go from there. Update on the Oklahoma-Kansas game. As it has been up and down, but Kansas is losing right now 56-61 to Oklahoma, as Kansas is at home. They got almost 11 minutes left in the game. A very high-tempo, high-paced game, a very interesting game. I've been catching bits and pieces of it as I've been sitting here. But definitely a very physical and interesting game. As you know, as what's to be expected from the number 1 and number 2 team. Joe Pagano was on the hot seat for most of the second half of the season. He told his players in a meeting on Monday he didn't know if he'd be returning as their head coach, according to the Indianapolis Star. But in the end, the Indianapolis Colts gave him a contract extension. It was a strange day around the Colts on Monday. Pagano has been under the heat for most of the season because the Colts went from a popular Super Bowl pick in the preseason to an 8-8 finish and out of the playoffs. Not all of that was Pagano's fault, considering injuries to quarterback hit Indianapolis hard, but owner Jim Irsay isn't the most patient man in the NFL. However, the Colts had 11 win seasons in each of Pagano's first 3 seasons. He missed a large part of one season while he battled cancer, for those that forgot, and played in the AFC Championship game last season. One 8-8 season wasn't enough to cause the Colts to look elsewhere for a coach, and it had already been speculated that Pagano would be one of the top available candidates if he wasn't retained. So perhaps Irsay thought better of pursuing out a respected coach. Trying to see if there's any details. It was kind of what I was looking at here, which there's no details on the contract. Kind of interested to know the details and how much of an extension they gave a quarterback who had probably one of the most memorable plays in the NFL history with that fake punt with the whole offensive line on the one side and just the punter and the center in the middle of the field. Not one of the brighter moments of the Indianapolis Colts or Chuck Picano's career. So obviously Jim Irsay kind of got over that, but yeah, still will go down in history as one of the most interesting. Tell you what, they made a big deal the other day, or yesterday, about Jimmy Butler surpassing Michael Jordan for most points and a half by a player for the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan had scored 39 points and a half. Jimmy Butler yesterday scored 40 points in the second half. Had a phenomenally great game. Shooting percentage. I want to say it was something like 14 and 19, 11 for 12 from the field, like 2 or 3 from downtown. I mean, percentages were ridiculous. He had a very good shooting game. Almost everything went down. Even you throw in the first half stats. I mean, it was 1 of 4. But he threw that into the mix and still had a superb shooting percentage game. And 42 points is a good game, too. Great game. But to the extent of the attention, to the extent of the media blowing it up, he scored 40 points and a half. He scored 42 points total for the game. I don't want to take anything away from scoring 40 points and a half. All-time bowl leader now. And I don't want to use Jimmy Butler in the same conversation as Michael Jordan. I never, ever want to. That's total disrespect to not only the game, but Michael Jordan. But for there to be so much attention on a player scoring so many points at 1.5, but really, when you look at the big picture, like I said, 42 points, great game. But we have 40-point players all the time. I mean, it was 1 of 4 the first half. So not only was he not shooting that great, he stayed away from the ball. Second half, he just got a little bit more ball hoggish, I guess. I mean, they were good shots. I don't want to really call it that. But why are we making such a fuss? Well, not we, because I ain't making a fuss. I'm questioning it. Why is there such a fuss about a player scoring 42 points in a game? I have not gotten that all day today. I was sitting there, okay, yeah, he scored 40 points and a half. But he scored 2 points in the other half. Big whoop-de-doo. He shot the ball 4 times. He was rested. I mean, he shot the ball 4 times and had a halftime break. I mean, he couldn't have been tired. Couldn't have been exhausted. He didn't do much the first half. And you got people out there comparing him to Michael Jordan and everything else. I'm like, are y'all kidding me here? Like, no. He scored 42 points. Vlad Divac almost killed the Lakers' trade for Kobe Bryant. I thought this was interesting. Almost 20 years ago, the Lakers had one of the greatest off seasons in NBA history when they acquired Kobe Bryant and signed free agent Shaquille O'Neal. But former Lakers center Vlad Divac, now the Sacramento Kings general manager, almost prevented the team from forming one of the most dynamic duos in NBA history. My feelings were that I play basketball for fun. This is not fun. Divac recently told Yahoo Sports about the 1996 draft day deal that sent him to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Kobe Bryant, who was expected to play his final game in Sacramento on Thursday. If somebody asked before, Vlad, are you going to play basketball over there in Charlotte? It's not going to happen. I talked to my wife and told her, look, I'm going to retire. It would have been so bad I would have been the most hated guy in L.A. Divac, a 7'1" center, was drafted by the Lakers with the 26th overall pick in 1989 NBA draft and made an immediate impact, being named to the 1990 NBA All-Rookie First Team and becoming a starter alongside Hall of Famer Magic Johnson. The Serbian quickly fell in love with Los Angeles and was in even deeper love with playing for the Lakers, averaging 12.2 points and 8.5 rebounds, primarily as a starter from 89 to 96. But before the 1996 draft, then Lakers general manager Jerry West became infatuated with Bryant, the high school kid from Philadelphia who was destined to become a superstar. West worked out a deal to send Divac to Charlotte for the 13th pick in the draft, which the Hornets used to select Bryant for the Lakers. By trading Divac, who was set to make $4.7 million in the 96-97 season, the Lakers would clear the needed salary cap space to make a lucrative offer to O'Neal in free agency. Divac was in Europe and was stunned when his agent told him about the trade. Days later, Divac said he informed the Lakers he planned to retire, which would have prevented the team from trading him for Bryant. It felt like someone from behind hit me with a hammer, Divac told Yahoo Sports. It was the first time in my career that something happened in a way I didn't plan. I was devastated. I was thinking I play basketball for fun. My father said when I brought my first basketball paycheck back home, who gave this to you? Are you crazy? Do they know you would play basketball even if they didn't pay you? I am not going to play basketball because I have to play. I'm going to play for fun. I was 28. I am not going to go somewhere and be forced to play basketball. I told my agent that I am not going to Charlotte. I loved L.A. I loved the Lakers. For every kid that played basketball, it was a basketball heaven being with Magic and the other guys. Within 10 days of the draft, Divac said he returned to Los Angeles ready to retire, yet he agreed to meet with West. After an emotional meeting with West, Divac changed his mind and agreed to the trade. Jerry called me, and I flew back to L.A. and we had lunch, Divac said. The trade happened in principle, but I was holding it up. It was a great conversation, he said. Why don't you go over there and explore and see if you like it or not? Me and Jerry had a good relationship. He was the guy who was waiting for me at the airport after being drafted in 1989, and it was an emotional meeting for both of us, and I trust him so much. He is the best basketball mind in the world. When Jerry tells you something, you believe him. Who would have thought? The Lakers and the Hornets made the trade official on July 11, 1996, and 7 days later, O'Neal signed a 7-year, $120 million deal with the Lakers that would win 5 NBA championships with Bryant, including 3 with O'Neal. Who would have ever, just think how much this league would have been different, or possibly how much different Kobe Bryant's career would have been if Vlad Divac would have retired and made this trade not possible. Because the Charlotte Hornets put the pieces together and made, a championship run. Then it makes you also wonder how often do those guys that made the decisions for the Charlotte Hornets, how many times they've kicked themselves in the butt for making that trade. Granted, you didn't know then what this high school kid was going to do for your team, but I just I just couldn't imagine having to have that on my mind that that I'm the one that traded off Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant ends up winning 5 championships. 5 championships. J.R. Smith was hot tonight from three-point range, hitting 8 three-pointers. 8 three-pointers. That's phenomenal. Oh, goodness gracious. Johnny Manziel goes to Vegas Saturday. Does not make it back Sunday for the game. I think he's trying to do everything he can to make sure that the Cleveland Browns get rid of him. And I hate the fact that the Cleveland Browns even wasted a draft pick on this bum. And I knew that, for a long time I boycotted. I wasn't wearing nothing Cleveland. It wasn't until he flipped the entire Steelers bench off that I finally lifted my boycott. ESPN 1100 out of Las Vegas is reporting that Johnny Manziel sported a disguise during his weekend trip to Las Vegas. According to the report, Manziel wore a blonde wig, a mustache, glasses, and a hoodie while taking on a persona of Billy. The quarterback was at a popular Las Vegas club beyond 3 a.m. and asked to have his bill pumped. He explained that he did not have the cash and did not want to put it on his credit card. He eventually did pay with the credit card. Other reports have suggested Manziel was sent home from the meeting earlier this week because he was inebriated. Former head coach Mike Penn denied the report. Manziel was also not present for the mandatory Sunday check-in with players in the concussion protocol. However, defensive tackle Danny Shelton did report that the quarterback was present for Monday's exit meeting. The intrigue of Manziel lives on. God, I knew this when you drafted him, that he had a history of this kind of garbage. Then when you drafted him and seen him act the way he did when he got drafted with the whole money sign thing, that should have been your next sign. Then the rehab. Then the partying. Then how many more signs do you need before you catch on that Johnny Manziel is not going to take this serious, is never going to take it serious, he is never going to be a starting quarterback? I hope that he goes to Dallas. I hope that Dallas decides that they want to take on all that drama. I'm so tired of hearing one report talk about how done that the Browns are with Johnny Manziel, and then the next time you turn around, that they make him a starter again. I wish that they just cut it off. Why are you constantly entertaining yourselves with this? Why are you dragging this out? For those that are not watching the NCAA number 1, number 2, Kansas versus Oklahoma game, it is tied at 68 apiece with 5.5 minutes left in it. I highly suggest, the way that this game is going, that once you turn off this show, you turn on the TV and catch the end of this game, because it is a very high-tempo, exciting game going on here. between Oklahoma and Kansas. Tomorrow we're going to talk about some of the interesting games that is on the NFL schedule. I thought I'd saved it, but I can't find it. So I got to dig out as they've released the new schedules. So we're definitely going to talk about that. We're going to definitely talk about this Oklahoma-Kansas matchup that is going on right now. Very interesting and exciting game. Obviously, we got some bowl games to recap on a little bit and talk about the Alabama-Clemson matchup. And sorry, Clemson fans, I understand that you're feeling disrespected right now because you're undefeated and the number one team, and yet you're not favored to beat Alabama. But there is a really good reason why you are not favored to beat Alabama. Got Izzo joining us at 10:30 tomorrow night to talk some NHL. Looking forward to having him on the show. And might have another surprise tomorrow. Who knows? We'll see when we pull out the bag of tricks. Don't forget you can check me out at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check out my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. Check out the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, our website, www.the110nation.com. Our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. For all the latest going on. Don't forget, you got the 110 Nation morning show, Monday through Friday. The show kicks off at 9 o'clock. Got the 110 Nation Sports Show, Monday through Friday. Show kicks off at 9 o'clock p.m. Got Racing with Big Sweat. I was supposed to make its return this Thursday. Thoughts and prayers are with Big Sweat there. Steve Billmeyer was in the hospital just getting out. Needs some time to get things situated, so he'll be coming back next weekend, January 14th. We got the return of Sam Edwards to the show. Sam Edwards returns to Sam Edwards to the 110 Nation. He'll be helping out with the show over there. Those Thursday nights, 9 p.m. And then, of course, we got the Midwest Horsepower Hour, 9 p.m. Sunday nights, all times Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you guys check out our roster of shows. Goal for this year, going from 17 hours a week to 35 by July to 49 by December. So with that being said, if you're interested in hosting a show, hit me up, MrCJSports@gmail.com. Also, if you're interested in co-hosting or being a specific sport expert, all you got to do is hit me up as well. Or if you got a show and you want us to syndicate it, rebroadcast it on our network, hit me up, MrCJSports@gmail.com. Also, Miss Lee is working on getting our guest scheduled for the 2016 year. So if you're interested in coming on the show, all you got to do is hit up Miss Lee. That is LEE_110nation@yahoo.com. If you got some part of some kind of athletic organization team, you're an athlete, maybe you got a site or show and you want to come on and promote it and talk sports, or maybe you got some kind of charity or foundation, like I said, hit up Miss Lee. That is LEE_110nation@yahoo.com. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Glad to be back here on 2016 for full live shows. Like I said, if you missed the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a lot of best of. We had live parts of the show. It wasn't all just replays, but we included 2 to 3 interviews, replays of interviews, show to make sure that we had an opportunity to relive 2015. But looking forward to a full and fun 2016. So you guys have a great night, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show with Mr. CJ Sports. You are a part of the 110 Nation, so be sure to visit the110nation.com for everything related to the show. You can follow CJ on Twitter @110nation and on Facebook @110nation Sports. Until next time.
Any Jane Doe can tell you that Geico could help you save. But since money talks, we just ask the savings instead.
Greetings and sun salutations. I'm Jane's Money, and I never knew my self-worth until Jane switched her car insurance at Geico.com. Those 15 minutes built me up to real savings. Geico's been helping customers save money like me for over 75 years. So take that to the bank. And namaste.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.